All right, everybody, we're going live on the Night Owl broadcast tonight, talking about all the things that I absolutely did not want to touch, but it looks like I'm going to have to. Why? Because it's important to you and I on what's happening in the world and in our country. And yes, that's it. That's the ICE operations, the riots that are trying to stop them, and all the things in between. So let's get into that, and let's talk about it from a pastor's perspective and find out if we should be supporting it, rooting them on, praying for them. What should we be doing as Christians when it comes to what's happening in Minneapolis? When we come right back.
We pray for love and unity, and that the church would find new zeal and commitment to the mission and purpose of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
You're a liar! You're a liar!
Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart.
The program here at the home studio. We're coming to you in a way of hopefully to appeal to your hearts and discuss what it means and what's going on in our country. Why are these things happening, and why law and order is important. And let's try to break through all of the emotions, right? Let's try to figure out what's going on in the streets, in our country, in our government, and figure out why the chaos is happening. There are people that are emotionally charged, and there are people getting killed on the streets. Let's be honest. There have been shootings from the law enforcement, ICE, immigration enforcement, because there are attacks on their operations, and there's impediments on their operations. So we want to talk about that too. I really didn't want to go there. I just wanted to stick to where our show is going, where our program was heading. We were talking about all things faith, Bible, biblical values, principles, and what's happening in the country. But it looks like we can't avoid the seriousness of what's happening in the Twin Cities like Minneapolis. One, because the news is just all over it. They keep covering it. They keep talking to us and showing us the tragedies that are happening there on the streets. But they're also, I don't fully believe they're telling us the entire story. And what is the entire story? Well, I think there are paid actors, paid agitators to go out there and disrupt what's happening. How do they know where these operations are happening? How do they know where the ICE, the HSI and these officers are going, these federal and officers? How do they know where their targets are? Where is the paperwork? Where's the paper trail when it comes to these paid actors? A lot of them are repeat offenders. As a matter of fact, the gentleman that just got killed by ICE agents was already in a confrontation with these law enforcement officers, federal officers. And so I want to get into that. I want to talk about why it's important that we pray for our government, why it's important that we understand what is happening within our government. Why should it matter to Christians? What does it mean to us as Christians when someone comes to our cities, or a group of law enforcement, whether it's federal agents, law enforcement? How should you conduct yourself around these people? Now, there's a whole lot of conversations about race, a whole lot of conversations about calling them the Gestapo, and just pointing back to civil rights and pointing back to I guess, racism. And it drives me crazy that this is where we go. And it doesn't surprise me that we're there, because this is what happens. This is what happens in the race war, in the media frenzy, in the chaos, in the division that happens in America. We are very driven by emotion. Even when you watch certain news stations, the music they use, it's fear driven. It wasn't long before or long after what happened in Minneapolis, I started seeing news coverage on social media from local news in Arizona, telling everybody where ICE operatives or ICE enforcement was landing, where they were conducting official business, almost to tell everybody where they're going. And so here you are, you're having protests happen from the local public schools. Kids in our area are now talking about They're going to miss class to go protest against ICE. And I remember this specifically, and it wasn't too long ago when there was a movement here in Arizona. I think it pretty much moved across the country, and it was called Si Se Puede. And this is where there was anti-immigration marches happening in the streets because supposedly there were the Sheriff Joe Arpaio and his group were racially profiling to turn these immigrants over to ICE. Now, this is also the presidency that deported the most immigrants to this date, more than the most recent presidents. And it was a Democratic president. I don't even have to go into all of that. This has always been an issue. Illegal immigration has always been an issue. I come from a family of immigrants, so I understand the issue. We pastor immigrants. We pastor those that have become citizens of America after traveling from other countries. We help people get to America and get their visas. We've done this many times over and over, so we know what this is like. We know what it's like when a family has to travel back to Mexico to go to their court date and get the approval to come back to the United States to live, work, and establish their citizenship. I know what this process looks like. We've seen it through and through. So, as a pastor, yes, it's true. Legal immigration is the right way to come into a country. What I can't stand and what I get really frustrated with is to see people continually breaking the law and not going through their process, their due process that everybody wants them to have, and continue on. I know it's expensive. We get it. We've seen it. We've helped people. It's not the most perfect. It's not the most. It's not the greatest process. We get it, and we would love to try to fix it. But you have to go through it to become a citizen. You have to get in line. That's the way it works. What doesn't help is where people come. They seek asylum, whether right or wrong. Now they're here, and they just live off the systems of, let's just say, the Twin Cities and places like New York, other sanctuary cities that just want to pay for their free health care, their free education, and just a free ride to live here in the United States when we have to work hard and pay taxes. There has to be a continued effort on behalf of those that migrate here to this country to do it the right way. I don't think that I'm saying anything too crazy or anything that's way off. I think most of us can agree. Where it gets hairy is when it gets to a lot of the clips that we're going to show today. It's the tantrums that people are throwing in the streets, blowing their whistles, using their blowhorns to put it in ICE agents' faces, throwing objects at them, blocking streets, getting in the way. I didn't want to get into this because once lives are lost, then emotions are high, rightfully so. I wish the woman that got killed in her car had not gotten killed. I wish the young man that just got shot by the ICE agents while carrying a weapon and fighting with them was not killed there on the streets. But you cannot, and I'm going to make this more clear, you don't have to like what they're doing, but to show up and to challenge physically law enforcement, you almost have to expect the worst to happen. Nowhere in the United States is anyone safe fighting law enforcement while being armed. That's just the way it is. If any of us were in a scuffle with somebody that was armed, the fear would be that it could discharge or they could use it against you. So it's almost a situation where you have to kill or be killed. And most of us, unless you've been in combat this way, in overseas or in real war situations, we don't really know what that's like, especially when you go to work every morning as a Border Patrol ICE agent, and you have to fight mobs of people that are calling you names, that are doxing you, that are trying to figure out who you are, that are trying to figure out where you live, who your family is, where your kids go to school. And not only that, being taunted and pushed and berated and objects being thrown, spat on, The list goes on. So tensions are so high, and the media has done it so perfectly. Again, it's almost like we've been in this situation before, where the media continues to circulate and they angle the news a certain way. As long as you're watching CNN, MSNBC, and all the other crazy leftist media, and I'm not going to be the one to be like, well, you should watch Fox and you should. No, you should use discernment and ask God to help us, help you, help this nation, and help people figure this out. Now, it seems to be a vicious cycle when it comes to these types of things, because I've only been on this earth for about 40 years. I'm not dating myself, but I'm dating myself, right? But it just seems like this cycle continues to repeat with peaceful protests and mostly peaceful riots, or whatever you want to call them, while cities are on fire, occupying certain cities, attacking and destroying property, attacking law enforcement, all around social issues. Can anyone just sit back and understand and take a moment, take a breath, and realize, like, wait a minute, we're being bamboozled here? Because it's the same playlist, it's the same blueprint, it's the same movie over and over again, and everybody falls for it. It's like a new generation sees it for the first time, and they get this righteous anger and start marching the streets. They paint their hair blue and dye it pink, and if you dare touch them or push them out of the way, they cry and scream and freak out. There's a lady rolling on the floor today because she thought it was a great idea to grab a flashbang and try to throw it back. Like, how crazy, how demented could you possibly be to think it's a good idea to grab a flashbang that's meant to explode at law enforcement? And would you know it, she blew her hand up and she's rolling on the floor. And then you got other crazies rolling on the floor with her, holding her busted up hands. The scene is so chaotic, so divisive. The messaging behind it is going to continue to make us believe they're going after innocent people. They're going after children. I heard one news anchor saying making people disappear when they were talking to Tom Homan today. I believe it was a show on MSNBC. The nonsense is crazy. Now I'm seeing even pastors on the left, ministers on the left, talking about how we are insensitive to people as law enforcement is showing tyranny and acting as the Gestapo and going back to the civil rights movement, when you're literally defending people that are dangerous to society, to their cities, to children, to women, have serious crimes that they have already committed and been released or hiding from law enforcement, and they need to be removed from this country. Whatever, give them due process. And most of them see their court date, but most of them either post bond or they can't post bond, and they get sent back once their court date happens. That is their due process. Somehow, there's a side of America that really believes they're going after random Americans and random innocent people that do somehow belong here. Yes, we're a country of immigrants. I'm a family of immigrants. I totally understand. My grandparents migrated from Mexico. One side of my family, my grandfather, who migrated from Mexico, went into the military, fought in Vietnam, retired in the Army, retired in the Air Force. I went to a lot of his bases, and I would go to when he was doing some National Guard work here in Arizona. It's called Gila Bend, Arizona. They were stationed out there, and they were surveying the land, and I got to see all the operations. I know what that looks like. And on the other side, I had my grandfather who worked the fields of Arizona, who very much knew what hard work was like. And they all did it the right way. They all got their citizenship, and they served this country with all their heart and became American citizens. That's what the American dream is all about. But people want a free ride, and they want to come into this country and live for free and get Social Security and get health care and not have to pay for it. And then they cry and scream when it's time to go home because they missed their court date or they broke the law. Guess what? If a parent in America breaks the law and they have kids, where do they go? They go to prison and they leave their kids behind. So what's the difference when you break the law in America and you've got kids and you're not a citizen, you get deported or sent away. And unfortunately for that kid, it's absolutely traumatic. Am I being heartless? No, it hurts. It actually, literally, I feel terrible for these children whose parents brought them here illegally, thinking they could just get a free ride, and now they're suffering the consequences. Now, there's some numbers. I don't know that we have the clips, but we're going to take a look. There are some numbers and ratios that are talking about those that have gotten picked up or detained that were incorrectly arrested. And the numbers are staggering when it comes to those that were picked up, detained, or wrongfully deported through a certain administration like the Obama administration, which is much higher than even today. There will be mistakes made. Anytime you have the federal government on either side at any time doing a certain job, you know there's going to be mistakes. So that goes without saying. All right. I've already gone on a long rant, but before I move on, I want you guys to take a look at this scrolling ticker at the bottom. You can subscribe to us on YouTube wherever you're watching. Come on, do us a favor, hit that subscription button and hit that notification bell so that we can break through the algorithm. If you're watching on Facebook, you can share it. If you're watching on X, you can repost it. Or anywhere else, let everybody know that you're watching and you enjoy the show. To all our partners, thank you so much. If you want to become a partner, go to www.politicalpulpit.com/partner, and you can find out all about what it's like to partner with us. And we couldn't do it without you guys. So thank you so much for making this all possible. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh yeah, one more thing. Watch us on osn.tv. That's osn.tv. And to subscribe to OSN, you can use promo code Josh for an exclusive 10% off that subscription. You'll be happy with all the content that's on there. It will fulfill and bless your life. And thank you so much for helping us out. Alrighty. So we're already getting some comments that are coming through. We have, it's sad that common sense has been lost, and that's the problem. Common sense gets lost when you have the media that is destroying common sense because they want you to see it one-sided. And then, of course, we have what a nauseating take. Shame on your church. You have masked Gestapo acting illegally. And he's calling me a grifter. Well, wonderful. That's absolutely, your comments are, thank you. You're helping my algorithm. But you totally don't understand my point. You don't understand my take because you're not listening. And that's too bad for you. You see it one-sided, and that's the problem. I wish people would understand that there are laws in this country that need to be followed, and that's why people are taking to the streets. And it's not too hard to realize that some of these actors and organizers are paid by organizations to go out there and do that and to rile people up. And they're not the ones getting hurt, shot, or hands exploded because they kind of sit back, but they push people out there. They're organizing. Go be disruptive. Go block the street. Go do what you can. They get you guys motivated to go challenge law enforcement. You might not like what they're doing, but to put people in harm's way, it makes me more upset that you're willing to put others in harm's way like that. Why not let them take the illegal criminals, give them due process, and see what happens? If they post bond, then guess what? They're free. And if they don't post bond, they're going to go to jail for a while until their court date happens, and the courts will decide whether they get deported or not. And by the way, in Minneapolis, in the Twin Cities, you have liberal judges anyways. So they have a better chance of getting arrested and coming home. But you guys want to go out there and fight ICE agents, call them the Gestapo, and make it seem like we're really, even what was happening back then to the Jews is horrific. We're talking about gas chambers, mass killings. It's not the same thing. Like, to even identify it as that is really upsetting. All right, so let's get into some of these clips. As a matter of fact, something happened today with, you guys know Ilhan Omar. Isn't she lovely? She's probably the most. She's probably the biggest organizer to all this corruption. And one day I pray that whatever is going on behind the scenes when it comes to all this money, all this organizational money that's coming and funding from the government to Minneapolis to these organizations be found out. And let the truth come out. Whatever it is, let it come out. I'm going to go ahead and play this clip really quick. And she actually, I don't condone any of this. This is unfortunate. And If you guys remember, if you've been with us for a while, you know that before 2026, I said that this stuff was going to happen. Just because people on the right were happy that President Donald Trump was elected and everything should be great and everything should be fine, the economy's going to flourish and everybody's going to be great again and all those things. Yeah, that's wonderful. That's great. It's a great idea. But don't for once think that there isn't going to be a fight on the other side. Now we're into 2026 and it's been nothing but chaos. Y'all can point the blame at whoever you want, but we knew this stuff was going to happen. I'm telling you, it's like a playbook. It's a predictive playbook that continues to happen. All right, I'm going to go ahead and play this clip. She got sprayed with something absolutely horrible. Benny Johnson says, Ilhan Omar sprayed by man with unknown substance after calling for DHS Secretary Kristi Noem's resignation. So we can't get mad at people on the left that do things and not get mad at people on the right that do things, because this ain't right. I don't care who you are, because this stuff gets dangerous. This is where more stuff happens to more and more people, where lives get lost, assassinations. We cannot condone any type of violence, but let's take a look.
And DHS Secretary Kristi Noem must resign or face impeachment. I don't know.
Oh my God! Oh my God! He sprayed something on her.
I need a napkin to know nothing.
No, we'll go on.
No, we will continue.
No. Ilhan, you need to go get checked. No,
We will continue this. We're not going to get away with
need
it.
to go get checked. No, you don't know what he did.
And DHS.
All right, so that's crazy. To me, that's a little bit dangerous, because that could have been anything. But again, she does act kind of crazy. She's an angry woman and she hates America. This woman, I'm telling you, hates America. Y'all know it. She says it. She says the worst things about America. How she is in our government as a government official blows my mind, and I hope to God that she's out of here eventually. So we're getting a mix of comments here. Omar needs to be arrested and deported, and then of course someone's in there saying no one will be fired. Haven't they deported more immigrants in Texas than Minnesota? Is that Texas doesn't have a Walt character standing up there trying to divert from his own fraud. If you guys watch Waltz, he looks so guilty, guys. He looks nervous. And it's almost like, you guys tell me, there was all this fraud that was being revealed, right? That stuff that was coming out about these daycares. And then boom, heavy on the ICE riots, total distraction from all of the fraud that's happening. The great thing is, though, I think that there's going to be investigations either way as this is happening. And I just pray, if there's fraud, and I think you guys can agree, regardless of what's going on, regardless of what side you're on, nobody wants to see millions of dollars in pockets to people that don't belong or don't deserve it, especially if you're not really running a facility that you say you're running. Nobody wants to see that kind of money be lost in our government. There's already enough government waste. So if there's fraud, let it be found and let those people go to jail, regardless of the race, regardless of who they are. If you're a fraudster, you're a fraudster, and you deserve to be either jailed, prosecuted, and deported if that's necessary. All right, so let's take a look at what's next. If you guys go deeper into what's happening with Waltz, Governor Tim Waltz, Minnesota needs partial investigations, the departure of federal forces, and an end to the campaign of retribution against our state. So I love how Waltz tries to talk tough on TV, but I wish they would release the conversations, between him and Trump. Supposedly they had a conversation. I guess they're going to remove the federal agents, or there won't be so many raids as long as we can go into the prisons. I love that idea. If you got people in federal prison or in your prisons that have broken the law and have been arrested and they need a court date, give them the court date, turn them over to ICE officials, and if it's time to deport them, get them out. Who could argue with getting illegal immigrants that have broken the law, that are the worst of the worst, that have hurt people, that have committed heinous crimes? Why would we be arguing about getting them out? I love that idea, if this is true, of going into the prisons and getting them out. Let's see what he has to say.
I'm not interested in a more efficient metro surge. I'm ready for them to get out of here, and I think that's where Minnesotans are talking about. So it was progress. Look, I never got a call from Bovino or Nome. Never. Nothing. No, nothing. When they're coming here, and Tom Homan landed last night, and he called me last night and asked if he could have a meeting, and he was there at 9:00. So, look, I think that's progress, but they started this fire, so we're not giving anybody credit for putting it out. But right now, what we need is a return to normalcy by these ICE agents out of here. And you talked about this in all those meetings with the White House and with Tom Homan and his team. Nobody asked about Alex or his family, so I appreciate you bringing that up. This family going through the horror of losing their son, and then also to see him slandered like that. It's just
not only slandered. I'm slandered by the top officials
in the world,
the
the most powerful people in the world, and not taking it back. And look, for one whole day, certain news stations, that's all they were running, and that's one of the problems here. Look, Minnesota, they came here. We don't have near the undocumented folks that many other states do. Minnesota's a well-run state. Minnesota's a place where people get along. We welcome immigrant community, and they brought this down on us. And I think you're here, Anderson. You're telling your folks it's a siege. It's a siege in all respects. We have children being pulled from their parents. We have elderly people being drug out in this type of cold with no clothes. It's just absolute cruelty.
I mean, is it?
There, he said so much there, but let's get to the comments really quick on this. One person says, William Berry 8015, Democrats love criminals. Of course, Jack 9211 still on Bovina under the bus. Okay, Trump literally, this is the one. Trump literally let out everyone that tried to have an insurrection on our government. There we go with the whole insurrectionist. I saw somebody post that on Facebook about insurrectionists on January 6th. It's so ridiculous that you all can't see that it was. First of all, we can get into why Pelosi didn't allow the National Guard in when it was called for. People were very upset. They were energized. They were letting them into the Capitol. It was almost like a trap. Yes, there are bad actors that shouldn't have done what they've done, but also on the other side of things, it was painted out to be, it was a bad trap. Let's just say it was a bad trap. But to say that there was this massive insurrection, like y'all are still hanging on to that. Now let's talk about what's happening today. And I actually do want to get into the gentleman that was killed today or the other day. To me, when I watched it, it was like, ugh, that I never want to see that. Even when the lady that was blocking ICE agents and got shot, you know, she used her car as a weapon. Always a bad idea. I don't like that she was killed the way she was. It was horrible. It's just horrible. But you know who I really blame is the messaging out there when this has been going on for decades. This agency has always done this. I've actually witnessed it in my own town. We were driving through a really bad neighborhood, and we saw ICE officials. They were literally filing a bunch of people out of this tiny, tiny little house. They were all arrested, and it actually kind of grieved me a little bit because of the sight of it. But then when you really think about the issue is these were immigrants that were trying to evade law and order. So it's an uncomfortable conversation, but when media uses it to supercharge people, to get them ultra emotional to the point where they're ready to arm themselves and approach law enforcement, you know, it's like something. It's just something that happens to the mind, to the spirit and soul of a person that is ready to charge and ready to fight law enforcement. It's never a good idea. You should see who it is. Could you be used against you at any time? So there's ultra, like, you got to be ultra cautious carrying a weapon, especially when you're going to a tense situation like a riot or like a protest, I should say, and scuffling with law enforcement. So, anyways, I just think, that stuff is it is what it is. You guys can, let's see, just stop spewing. Excuse my French, crap. And then, okay, he also says, I am spinning. This is our, oh man, some of these comments, people are nuts. Anyways, we're going to keep going. By the way, you might as well let us know where you're watching from, and thank you for tuning in. I appreciate the comments, whether they're good or bad, because it helps my algorithm. So thank you very much, guys. Anyways, let's go on to the next one. Tony says, nothing new in Minnesota. Same chaos plays out in cities everywhere, but only there does local government roll out the red carpet for riots to protect illegals. Pretty disgusting. ICE deserves the full respect they've earned, keeping our laws intact. Time to stand firm on law and order and honoring the grit that built this country, not crime and murder. Your citizens don't, in fact, want that.
I'm not interested.
So yeah, that's going back to the whole thing in Minnesota. This is like, Minnesota's always been deep blue. It's always been that way, and there's always trouble somewhere lurking for some social issue. We don't know why. I mean, maybe it'll get uncovered soon. Y'all can call me names that you want on the comments, but it doesn't help that this stuff is still happening. It continues to happen. It continues to keep circulating the news. And then there you go. You got Anderson Cooper citing one side instead of saying, to me, it's like, why don't you let law and order do what it needs to do? Let them go through the process and see what happens. No, you got paid actors. You got people that just take money, go out there, get people supercharged, and get people hurt is what happens. Now you'll have Anthony Edwards, a superstar in your basketball team. By the way, he donated yesterday's game check. It's $514,000 to ICE. He says Joe Biden let in 20 million illegals. ICE is helping keep America safe and deserves full funding. I'll tell you what. Why don't you trade him to the Phoenix Suns since y'all don't like him? We'll take him. Really like this guy now. So Aaron Farsing says Anderson Cooper's a nobody the most. Let's see if MAGA goes. All right, sorry about that, guys. I had a little glitch in our our system here, but we're back. Okay, so anyways, what was I saying? Oh, I was saying that there's basically a whole thing when it comes to illegal immigration, right? So I just, people want legal immigration. 75 million people voted for this, all right? So don't forget that. When you call the people that voted for this presidency, you're basically telling them they're all half. All right. I think I'm back. Man, sorry about that. I don't know what's going on here. Check. Okay, I'm back. Let's see if we can go to the next screen. Hopefully there's no hiccups. Let's take a look at what Isabel Brown says. Hard truth for Christians, but one we need reminding of. She says, if you find yourself crying on the internet over the supposed detention of a 5-year-old by ICE or the death of a protester, did you find yourself crying over Laken Riley and Molly Tibbetts? This is the part, guys. Like, it's always one-sided. Nobody really cares about the other people that have been murdered at the hands of illegal immigrants. Did you cry over the 1.2 million babies aborted in America last year? Did tears fall over the 300,000 children that went missing under the Biden admin and likely were sold into human trafficking? Did you cry over the infants that are raped to death by the cartels and violent gangs at our southern border? Did you cry when Charlie Kirk was assassinated? Moral consistency, so important to our faith. Of course, we should be outraged over the loss of life. Let's take a look.
That we did. I wish we could sit down and have an honest conversation about human dignity and maybe where our federal law enforcement could be doing a better job. Like I just said, bringing the Eucharist to Catholics in ICE detention centers. That's something I'm very passionate about, actually, and have not been secretive about. But the truth is, you're not really interested in having that conversation because you don't really care about human dignity, especially as it pertains to immigration. If you are crying about how evil and horrible the ICE officers have been on social media, and you cried about the detention of a 5-year-old, did you cry over the past several years about the hundreds of thousands, 300,000 plus children that went missing under the Biden administration, that we lost track of and likely were trafficked to human trafficking organizations and buyers at the highest bid? Did you cry about that? Did you cry over the 65,000 plus phone calls for help to the helpline set up by the Biden administration that went unanswered, that were exposed at a congressional hearing a few months ago? If you are crying about the idea of children being separated from their families, did you cry when a Texas father lost custody of his son when mom wanted to trans the kid over the past few years? And he lost contact with his own child and now is having to fight the court system to protect the innocence of his son. If you are outraged that someone was killed by a police officer in a situation that could have been preventable, did you cry? Were you outraged when Laken Riley and other victims of violence from illegal immigrants, which could have been prevented, were assaulted, raped, or killed? Did you cry over Molly Tibbetts on her college campus? Did that spur any sort of emotional reaction to you whatsoever? When you are crying about so-called political persecution and feeling like you have to fight the system, did you cry when Charlie Kirk was murdered in cold blood for trying to have open dialogue and honoring the First Amendment to the Constitution on a college campus? Or for defending the gospel?
Yeah.
When you claim that you care so much about Christian values and Christianity. The sheer lack of moral consistency here is astounding to me. Because these people claim they care about innocent babies, that children are being killed by the government, but you will never once see them call to defund Planned Parenthood. where our tax dollars are going towards the death and destruction, the mutilation, and having limbs ripped limb from babies' bodies every single day at Planned Parenthood. These people claim to believe all women and cry over believing all women, but they do not bat an eye when women are raped every single day at the southern border. And that I've had many conversations with Tom Homan about this, when we see literal infant babies raped to death by the cartels and violent gang organizations at the southern border.
So that's some of the stuff that we don't talk about because it's too, for whatever reason, nobody wants to face it. Those are the truths. These are real cases, real things that happen. I mean, you don't have to go too far into the southern border in some of these regions to find the aftermath that's still in the desert to this day. You got babies' clothes and shoes and women's clothing items and all this stuff of the nonsense that happened in the last 4 years. No one's saying anything about those things. Everybody wants to cry about. So by the way, that child that was there in ICE custody, the father left the child behind. So they act like they say things like we arrested that ICE agents arrested a 5-year-old and took it from its family when they were there supporting the child because the father decided it was a good idea to run. That child's with their family. But the news wants to cover certain, and don't you notice that it just went away? They're not revisiting that anymore because the facts came out that the father deserted the child because he was trying to run from ICE. And they're targeting not just illegal immigrants, but dangerous criminals. And chances are criminals will have children. And there's even greater chances that they're going to have a damaged upbringing because of their parents' choices. This happens all the time, unfortunately. And nobody wants to talk about these people that have died at the hands of criminals, that has been, been treated terribly. I don't even like to say the words, but raped and all the things that has happened to American citizens that have been killed. Nobody's batting an eye at that. They're all just getting upset because there's officers performing official business, taking criminals off the streets. But you got to keep fighting. We keep fighting. All right, so let's keep going. She had a take on there. We can't show all of it because we are running out of time. Remember to show everyone and let us know where you're watching from, and be sure to subscribe and like as we continue to put out more content for you all. All right, this post says this: anti-ICE protesters surround Tim Walz's office, screeching and shouting after he bent the knee to Trump. ICE is ramping up. Tim Walz is cooperating. Tom Homan on the ground. Trump is winning. What a horrible week for the left. Let's take a look.
Justice denied! Justice delayed! Justice denied! Justice delayed! Justice denied! Justice delayed! Justice denied!
They didn't like it too much. Well, I don't blame them. They're upset because the things they're crying about actually don't make much sense. They go out there, and a lot of these guys get paid, hold the same signs in different cities, get bussed in, and so they're expected to show up to these places. And now they're mad at Tim Walz. So they're going to be more mad coming soon, because as things come out, I'm sure there will be some prosecutions soon. And then, of course, the most hated probably Democrat amongst the Democrats is Senator Fetterman. We should deport all illegal immigrants in our country. Joe Biden did a horrible job and costed us the election. Take a look.
You agree with me when I say that for 4 years the country was lied to on a spectacular basis about the border being secure, the border being closed, and 12 million plus unvetted illegals came into the country as a result, including all these bad people. Is that all true? The Democrats allow that to happen and then lie about it?
Yeah, without a doubt. President Biden did a terrible job, and our border was effectively open at that point. Whether Biden and Mayorkas did not secure our border, and I tried to warn my party back in 2023 that this would cost us in the election, and America deserves to secure our border. I don't know why every American can't agree with that thing. And another thing is the truth that we should all agree to deport all of the criminals that are here in our nation right now.
You agree with me when I say...
Lovely idea. Like, wow, a Democrat agrees with such a wonderful idea. Get all the criminals out of this country. And if you've broken the law, it's time to go. It's not that hard. ICE is enforcing targeted operations. They are going after criminals that need to get off our streets. It's not that hard. Will there be mistakes? Yes. Should people be held accountable? Of course. But violence isn't the answer. Showing up with weapons to an operation that's happening as a targeted operation, by the way, is not a good idea. It's not a good idea. Here's a little funny clip that we found. Thanks to Ms. Destiny, our producer, who found this one. I think it's kind of funny. Take a look. All right. And it's funny, the lady there's like a scene that I don't know if we have it, but she picks up a flashbang, tries to throw it back at the officers. Her hand blows up. So now she's rolling on the floor like, everybody look at my hand. I try to pick up a flashbang, throw it at the officers, and her fingers are blown off. And then you got other people like laying on her like this, and they're holding out her hands. It's like, it's so crazy to watch. It's like children throwing tantrums. Yeah. Anyways, we'll stop there with that one. Okay. Let's go on to the next one. We have more protests. It's about time. No more stand down orders. No more thugs run wild while feds do all the heavy lifting. Finally, local law enforcement is now on the ground helping. Trump's pressure works. Waltz and Company finally got the message. I'm going to play it on a side-by-side. You got police there finally. Okay, so look at that scene right there. By the way, look at that scene. Imagine jumping in there with a gun on your side, and then you got multiple cops wrestling you. In any situation, if you're doing a traffic stop and you have a weapon and you're wrestling with officers, you're probably going to get shot. So I don't see how this is any different. Well, let's keep going. So, there you go. Now you got the cops showing up in Minnesota, and you guys, they're all throwing fits. Don't show up with the weapon. It's that simple. And by the way, Ashley Babbitt didn't have a weapon on her in the Capitol. She didn't deserve to die and get shot. Just point blank. It's that simple. Whether she should have been in the Capitol or not, or whether they were let in or not, I still don't think she should have got shot. Now she's gone. She didn't use her vehicle to ram a police officer, and she didn't show up with the weapon. Huge difference. Just saying. All right, let's take a look at this clip here. I can't show all of it, but I don't think Trump is retreating from it. I think he's just told Waltz and Frey, checkmate. Think about it. Minnesota's Democratic leadership wanted Trump to either invoke the Insurrection Act so they could scream military occupation or fully retreat and prove to other radicals that they can win. Instead, Trump said he's open to trading less ICE presence in Minneapolis for more state cooperation. Wonderful idea on deporting dangerous criminal illegals. Remember, that was his goal all along, to remove the worst of the worst. So Waltz and Frey have a choice now. Give Trump what he really wanted, or tell citizens to keep actual murderers and rapists in their communities. Either way, Trump wins. That's by Glenn Beck, by the way. I actually don't need to show that video. Okay, so we got people saying, rest in peace. You guys are all fighting on comments. Thank you for that, by the way. Keep ICE from arresting rapists. It's not going to look great on the history books. This is the hope and change Obama campaigned on. Yeah, that's actually right. This is the hope and change. Remember this? All of the deportations they had. You guys forget, like, the Democratic ticket was on illegal immigration and deportation. What? How do you guys not remember that? That's crazy to me. All right, nice. We got the clip from the Timberwolves. Oh no, it's not an actual play. We can't play it because it's from the NBA. But it says Timberwolves superstar Anthony Edwards urged Minnesota to let ICE to do their jobs after the team's 108-83 win over Golden State. Send him to Phoenix. We'll take him. You don't like him? Let's have him. He's an awesome NBA player. All right. So okay, I like this clip that I'll play a little bit of, because Josh Navarrete says this: what Christians have to get good at is understanding that there is a spirit behind the situation. And I understand this is controversial. Open your Bible and see if I'm telling the truth. There is an evil spirit when it comes to this type of disruption. You don't have to believe it. I just know it. It's in the Bible. And if you are new to what the Bible says, open it, read it, and understand it, because we are in a spiritual battle. Take a look.
All these comfortable white people who are living lavish, comfortable lives while children are dragged into concentration camps. You're living real life, nice lives with your lattes, doing absolutely nothing for your Latino and Somali brothers and sisters. You come here to a man wearing a suit as a preacher? Did Jesus wear a suit?
What Christians have to get good at is understanding there's a spirit behind the situation. There are 3 institutions for authority that God established in the Bible: the family, the church, and the state. If you pay attention, secular progressivism aggressively seeks to tear down all 3. The whole movement, it tends toward protecting lawbreakers and opposing law enforcement. That's where the whole hashtag defund the police comes from. Yeah. And it ends up reframing any civil authorities that enforce any law as fascist. Now watch this. If you're looking at a movement and the whole spirit behind the movement seems trained at literally deconstructing all 3 of the authority structures that God has established in the world, listen, put on your hat and open your Bible. You can figure out pretty quick what the spirit behind that situation is.
It's exactly what I was saying earlier. Like, you guys, it's the blueprint that continues to repeat itself. It's always attacking lawful, actions, law and order, the family, the way God designed the family to be, institutions designed through the Bible. I mean, our Constitution is inspired by the Word of God, and everything is coordinated and organized to attack those very things. So for Christians, you understand it's a spiritual battle. For everybody else in the comments, I don't know what you all are talking about, because you can't possibly think, like, I can't be the only 40-year-old in the room that doesn't remember what it was like under the Obama administration. You know, it was deportation, it was legal immigration, it was deporting millions of people. And then, we get to President Trump, everything's switched in 2016, and now you got Biden in 2020. Let's just open the floodgates. We got Venezuela unleashing the fury by letting all of their their criminals in their prisons and sending them north. Now their prisons are empty. And then now we have to deal with all of it. And so now we're dealing with it, and everybody's like, this is wrong. This is the Gestapo. Where's your compassion? How can Christians support ICE? It's craziness. It's craziness because you all just listen to the media and go with that, when we need to get every illegal alien that is breaking the law and is a terrible criminal and has hurt people and is harming people and stealing from American economy and the American taxpayer. It's time for them to have their day in court and go home. That's simple. I don't know why this is such a hard thing for everybody to understand. All right, I'm going to scroll back into some of these comments. I'm going to give you guys the opportunity to chime in. That's the end of all of our clips for the day, but let's see what we got. The mayor of Minneapolis finally allowed his PD to do their job and handle crowd control late last night, and they arrested the so-called protesters, and it's about time. That's at Mike-VQ8ZW. Yes, finally, activate your police. They're breaking the law. First of all, they're destroying. There's many instances where they're throwing things, crashing cars, messing up buildings, stopping law enforcement, just constantly breaking the law. It's literal lawlessness in the streets, and the police aren't doing anything until finally you make a deal with the president and people are going to jail. All right. Somebody mentioned Rittenhouse had nothing in common whatsoever with what this nurse pulled. Yes, They both showed up to the party, per se, with a weapon. The difference is this man decided to go fight with law enforcement. Rittenhouse was literally attacked by the same types of rioters that tried to take his weapon. It's on video. We all saw it. Okay, so someone's saying it's a cult. He brought a rifle. Yeah, he brought a rifle. We know he did. That's obvious. Ryan says, Ryan 2691. Josh, you're not exactly white, are you? Actually, no, I'm not white. I am Hispanic. Thank you very much. Broadboard 9571. Obama was so militant and such a sweet talking deporter of millions. Thank you. How did we forget that? That was like his whole presidency is constantly deporting. And then the whole cage thing, when they started blaming on Republicans, they literally created the concentration camps and were putting families and people in cages, kids in cages. That was their thing. And then, everybody's freaking out over here that we're deporting criminals. See, the far right will destroy MAGA. That's not exactly too far off. You're finally saying something. I do get worried about the far right. All right. So Obama's administration bailed out all of the banks and automakers and house lenders after Clinton balanced the budget. Bartholomew, thank you very much. Yeah, right. Not so much. The left is radicalized. There's no talking to liberals. That's the part that frustrates me the most. They're so emotionally charged. And I even got friends that are on the left, and that's fine. That's what their belief is. But these are the same type of people that say, oh, well, abortion's always been there. It's always going to be here. So there's no reason to fight it. We can't fight people, especially if you're like a pastor, if you're in your Bible and you follow the laws of God and the New Testament, especially everything that Jesus stood for and everything that was established for our church, the institutions designed by God, and you still support the crazy radicalized left on abortion, and I'm sorry, on the alphabet army, and now immigration. Every country deserves and has a right to have their immigration laws and to have their own border and to make a process for either immigrants to come over or those that are seeking true asylum. That's it. Ours needs to be fixed 100%. But also, we need to stick to law and order. Okay. Next, it was also proven on video he was being attacked by the mob who were trying to take his gun from him. And when you pull on the barrel of a rifle and there is a finger on the trigger, yeah, bad news. And then, come on, bro, Jack 9211, Nick Fuentes is exposing Trump. Nick Fuentes he needs help. No Democrat has yet been able to explain why they get to ignore federal immigration laws with an open border for 4 years under Biden's sanctuary cities protecting illegal. That's the other part. Like, where was everybody when there was floods of people coming over? That doesn't bother you? And then they're going to your cities. They're taking up, valuable state and tax dollars from American citizens. And they are not. A lot of them are not going through the process that they need. Now, listen. I'm going to remind you something. We are in Arizona. We pastor many immigrants. We know what that's like. We've helped people get their citizenship. We've seen families and mothers and fathers go home to Mexico, go to their court date, get the right paperwork they need, come back home, and now they are even closer and even becoming citizens and enjoying the American dream the way it should be. There's a process, and it can be done. Just coming here, flooding the country, breaking the law, becoming a criminal, hurting people, robbing people, and doing the unthinkable, you got to go. Why is there a fight with that? Please help me understand that. Help me understand that. All right. Then you have Biden's cabinet going before Congress multiple times and lying under oath, telling Congress the border is sealed. Yeah, lying to our faces, and the media would continue to run with that. I remember a lot of lifelong Democrats switching parties when Obama got elected. Yeah, I remember that too. And I also remember kids leaving school, marching Si Se Puede. I don't know if you guys remember that march because supposedly they were racially profiling. Some of our dear friends had their parents deported during the Obama administration. It's crazy to me to see this. Like I said, I can't be the oldest one in the room that doesn't remember when this was all happening. All right. It says, you sound like a tool for white supremacy. Well, if you were listening earlier, I am actually a son or grandson of an immigrant, and I have families of immigrant who went through the process the right way, and they're living the American dream. So you're absolutely wrong. Get your nose out of CNN and MSNBC and all those crazy news stations. Get out of the news, everybody. Don't listen to the news. Find your outlet, find your way of getting your information, but use your eyes, use your common sense. Come on. All right. No, we are free thinkers. That's the difference between the left and the right. I love it. I love it. All right, guys. So if you guys are in the comments, do me a favor. Why don't you hit that subscription button? And so that way we can get you more content and you can help us with our small little channel. We're doing our best. But we also have a website called thepoliticalpulpit.com. And if you want to partner with us, hit /partner and become a partner and help us get the message out. We appreciate everybody watching us today and joining us for this exclusive night out broadcast of the Political Pulpit. I am your host, Josh Navarrete. We got more content coming tomorrow, and we're going to find out what happens with ICE in the future and the rest of our country, and hopefully law and order is in store for us coming soon. I want to thank you guys again for watching us. Until next time, thank you and God bless.